towel out of a dryer, or wants hot water in a shower, or wants to be able to go to their stove and cook a good meal, needs to understand that energy is coming from somewhere. And the world's economy is run by, in part, energy. Why would we not take advantage of the opportunity to develop our own energy independence, to develop family-sustaining jobs? And I keep driving those themes forward as I inevitably have to deal with what's coming from the far left.
Let me extend that. It appears that the next big battle is about somewhat strangling the industry from externally. The only way that prices get driven is this industry is able to get its product to market.
Right.
And the big battle now is quickly evolving into a battle over the infrastructure, the pipelines that extend this product out into the rest of the country and the rest of the world. So how do we deal with that? We don't message this very well. Actually, let me just open that to all three of you. Is there a way we can better message, and quite frankly, as a government, should we be adopting specific policies as it relates to how we advance this pipeline infrastructure that's so essential to the industry?
If I could add, yes. I think that we in government, and then of course in the industry, do need to do a better job, use the word marketing, whatever you want to talk, PR. We need to do a better job of explaining the importance of this industry and what it means to our economy, but also our national security. One of the parts of the agreement that I signed with Pennsylvania and West Virginia, it works on the marketing strategy around how we talk about this industry. It's safe, it's reliable, it's clean. How do we talk about this, and how do we do a better job of marketing it? And then you're right. I think the next battle to fight will be the infrastructure, which we're at that phase, and I heard it from all the companies that I had the opportunity to visit with. That's where we're going next, and that's what's going to allow this industry and this great natural resource to continue to be available in the vast quantity that we know it is under the ground, is to actually drill it out and build the infrastructure to get it where it needs to go. And so I do think we need to do, and I think we play a part in government, need to have a strategy around how we talk about the importance of this and how we market the fact that it can be done safely. It is in everybody's best interest. It's their vested interest in the industry to protect the workers that are working on the jobs, on the rig, building the pipelines. It's in their best interest to have clean water. And we just need to do a better job. I can tell you, visiting the state fair this year in Ohio, DNR had a great display of what it looks like to drill a well, and to express and to explain to the general public, what the casing looks like, and to express how it's being done in a very safe way. And I think we all need to do a much better job of talking about it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think while we in state government need to do a good job telling that story, I believe the industry needs to, you need to do a better job telling the story yourselves, because, if you look, you're great corporate citizens. You do things because they're the right things. You give scholarships. You support the great causes in the communities that you're involved in, and it isn't in our nature to stand up and say, hey, look at me, look at all the good I'm doing. But I think when the citizens, when the people affected positively or negatively look around and see the cumulative impact, the good that's being done by the industry, just the side stories, I think it can be a game changer by itself. But if we really look at what the economic impact is, if it's as simple as somebody getting a $400 a month royalty check that allows them to ultimately pay off their car, and then they pay off their home, and then they have a few dollars and they say, I always wanted to open that little coffee shop downtown. There are so many great stories that come from this industry that I think the quicker we get out and and beat that drum, thump our own chest a little bit, I think the better off we are. The pipelines are incredibly important. I mean, I think if, you know, I've gotten some of the old school wisdom from some of the old time coal people down in the southern part of the state where I'm from. Now, don't you build those pipelines. Don't let that get away from here like coal did. My goodness, if we built 10 pipelines tomorrow and opened them wide open, there'd be nobody left alive in this room, and we'd still be pumping gas. And, you know, that's not even counting the opportunities with the crackers and the downstream manufacturing opportunities that come with that. So the quicker the better. We need to be hitting on all cylinders and moving forward. But you know, at the end of the day, it would be great, in my opinion, if we could jointly take over the narrative about just how good this is for not only the citizens of the states that are affected, but bringing that low-cost energy to our nation, making sure that our manufacturing stays competitive on a national and a global scale, making sure that our seniors on fixed incomes we don't have any bad stories in the dead of the summer, the middle of the winter. There's just so many things that are positive, and it's really high time we gain the messaging edge on that.
Speaker, do you have anything?
You know, just on permits, permitting. You know, Pennsylvania has well permits, erosion and sedimentation permits, stream crossing permits, air GP permits. You know, much of this managed by the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, and they're all important. They serve important purposes. But there ought to be, which we do not have in Pennsylvania, there's not really timelines. And I think that due process really requires not merely from government, elected bodies or the courts, but also from the regulators, the bureaucratic branch of the executive branch. There needs to be due process in their decision making as well, and we don't really have that. And I think that what we could do, one step that we could do, is to institute timelines as, you know, common sense timelines that folks who want to appropriately do business in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that they can have their answer and that they can have a rationale behind whatever that answer is, if it's in some way a negative. I think it's too open-ended, and I think we need to make sure that it's streamlined and more defined. The other thing I think is very important, and I think this is helpful from industry's perspective. I know people know this, but I think it's good to be said. You know, to the extent that we can make use of putting pipelines near rail lines or locations that already have industrial or transportation purposes and be able to make it happen, the less you can put yourself in a position where you're dealing with communities. I know that's not always possible. I do understand that. Just the better off we are if we can find those sort of locations on a map as starting points. I think that's always very helpful. I also do think that people just typically needed to be reminded of, this is part of everyday life. There's pipelines all around us, right? I mean, there's one in my backyard, a large gathering line. And of course, everybody thinks twice about it, but the fact of the matter is you're not getting natural gas to your home or any other energy without some type of transmission. And I think just that, as the senator said, that sort of education on behalf of industry to the public is very important. But I do think we could have a much more streamlined and due process oriented, time-defined permitting process in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And we did pass a bill a number of years ago, really based on evidence that we had found in the utility utility providers in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, whereby when they went to the Public Utility Commission to repair or to replace existing pipeline, they would be able to have a far more expedited and broader reach when they went in front of the Public Utility Commission than they had in the past, and they could spread those costs more efficiently. And I think that's had a positive impact, and we need to think along those lines in terms of new pipeline development as well. We don't have them for new pipeline development, but we do have it with respect to replacing and repairing old pipeline.
Well, the three of us up here, or the four of us here on the panel, know that the worst possible thing that can happen to a moderator is to get assigned to stretch. So I'm off script entirely, but there are a lot of other issues that I think are important to this community. There's a huge number of people here in this industry. Some of them are directly related to the drilling operations that are occurring in our region. Some of them are all part of the ancillary businesses that are so important. At the end of the day, the goal will be to create more of these people, more jobs. That is the promise and the pledge of this shale gas development in our region. The public doesn't grasp anything but this. This is an opportunity to create new wealth, new jobs, new growth in all three of our states. Right now, we're kind of struggling through a little downturn, a little price compression that is creating some real problems. But hopefully we're creating jobs. In order to do that, we have to create a workforce that is competitive, not just here, but across the globe. We have to create a workforce that can perform all the functions related to this industry. What are our three respective states doing to help advance workforce development? Governor?
I'll start. So again, one of the work groups from the Tri-State Agreement is workforce. We have representatives from various, from Stark State, let's see, who else do we have? Ohio State University, Ohio Board of Regents, Trumbull County, in Trumbull County. So we have representatives from various aspects of education in Ohio, and working with our partners in West Virginia and Pennsylvania to develop a strategy around workforce training. I think there's a couple things. This has been a challenge since we took office in 2011, not just for this industry, but across the board when it comes to having technical skills. Welders, I hear from everybody, we could use more welders. And I think we can approach it from several different perspectives. First, we have to have the programs available, whether it's in vocational schools and high school or in our two-year colleges, whether it's a two-year degree or a certificate program, and in our four-year colleges with a four-year degree. So the programs have to be available. But I also think that collectively as a group, industry, especially us in government, those in education, we need to do a better job of marketing the opportunity that exists in this industry. We need to talk about the types of jobs that exist, the fact that they're stable, that they're well-paying, and we also need to do a better job of communicating to the next generation. And this is my personal opinion. Some of you and many of you may agree. Not everyone needs to go to college. Not everyone has to go to college. Not everyone should go to college and four-year college and get a four-year degree. And I think that we need to do a better job as an industry and government, as parents, having those conversations with the next generation and explaining to them, you have so many different opportunities for work and career that go beyond just getting a four-year college degree. And we need to make it acceptable, and not just acceptable, but again, express the American dream that lives in a good paying job. You work hard, you get a good pay, and you support your family, and it's okay not to have to go to college and get a four-year college degree. I think, and I'm going to say this now as a parent, and my boys are 25 and 22, I think that we have failed that generation in some way, because there was so much emphasis placed on getting a four-year college degree. I have my older son who went to college for about a year or 2 years, and it wasn't for him. And we as parents didn't do a good enough job of expressing to him all of his opportunities that existed outside of the world of a four-year college degree. So we have an opportunity to fix that, but I think we have to do a better job together of communicating that message and working collectively across our states in this region to make those education opportunities available.
Absolutely. Mr. President, you've talked even today about the importance to create a drug-free workforce. And I know that's been a passion of yours. It's a very challenging problem for all of us to overcome. You have some thoughts?
Well, sure, and I think it's as simple as replacing hopelessness with hope. I really think that drills right down to the key and core of the problem, so that we all of a sudden create all the opportunities that exist potentially within this industry. All of a sudden the hope part is there, and then it becomes a matter of educating our kids all the way down to elementary school and helping them make good decisions to stay in school. You have a future. Stay in school, you have a future, and hand carry them all the way through the system. So many of them come from pretty impossible home environments, and you know, on the public side, I think it falls to us to try and make up that difference. I agree completely with you. I think we went through a whole generation of saying to our children, listen, you got to go to four-year college at least, or you don't have a chance. And now I feel so bad for those that are graduating with a four-year degree and this much college debt and no prospect of a job. And yet we have an industry like this that if we're working back with the vocational technology, you know, graduating kids out of high school or two-year technical college with a skill set that puts them to work immediately, my goodness, we've done the best thing in the world. We really have skipped a whole generation of the trade skills. You mentioned welders. Yeah. You know, I can understand any parent saying, I don't want you to grow up and have a hard life like me. I want you to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant or something. And you know, their heart's in the right place, but ultimately we've skipped a generation of the trade skills. And so all of a sudden it's somebody that has a trade skill, that has a high school education, that's going to be at the top of the food chain. They're going to be the great opportunities to earn. So, and I do believe, you know, as we look to creating that environment that's conducive to the investment and the job creators, you know, rather than simply say, well, we got to come up with a tax credit, we got to come up with a plan, we need to get out of the way as state government. I mean, to me, let the entrepreneurs do what they do best, but get out of their way and let them do it. I think any time that we have to make a deal, it almost says the deal we have isn't a good deal. Yeah. But then we're at risk of picking winners and losers. How about the people that are already invested in their state, already have people to work, but now we just gave their competitor a tax break or an unfair advantage over them. So I think if we feel like we're behind somewhere, that's the legislation we need to take up in the state to just make a fair and competitive and level and desirable playing field for the job creators. Then as far as state government goes, I think to come up with those partnering with our education systems and industry, I think if we're facilitating those things, those types of answers, then I think we're doing what we should be doing in state government.
Mr. Speaker, I want to double focus your response. This region is blessed with some fabulous higher education institutions that can really drive innovation in this industry and others. How do you see engaging them in this process?
Yes, and it is. There's such a wide variety of educational opportunities in this region. You know, University of Pittsburgh, just a few years back, created an engineering sub-department based on the energy sector. They did not have that, and that type of engineering that would be available in the energy sector, and they have outstanding academics who had private sector and academic sector settings who are driving that particular program. And it makes sense that the University of Pittsburgh is, you know, the leading center in our region. A key component of driving the economy itself, by the way, would take, and they really did that on their own. Mm-hmm. You know, they had a foresight to just see what was happening, and they had folks that wanted that were on that mission. He may be in the audience. He's Dr. Greg Reed amongst them. There's a number. In addition, I was up in the Northeast, small school. I think it was having some tough times. Private sector school, Lackawanna College. Went to the employers in the natural gas industry or related industries and said, if you could give us, you know, invest in us, we will focus on turning out individuals who can do work within your industry and still offer degrees, you know, whether it be a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree. And they began to just flourish. So many young students, including those who were just starting off school, but including some that had gone and dropped out, and you know, realized, hey, I gotta get responsible here in life. Started to go back, and I remember hearing the president of the college's testimony or his story as he was telling it to us, and how successful it was. Also, that was driven by an entrepreneur in the academic setting. I do think that our public universities, University of Pittsburgh is a state-related university. It does receive state dollars. But our public system of universities, Slippery Rock, Clarion, California, Edinburgh, are part of the state system of higher education. And we've talked to the leaders of those universities and said, you really need to focus on what are the career opportunities. It can't be, and look, my dad was a public school teacher, my brother's a public school teacher, but it just can't be, you just can't be creating jobs or educating kids for jobs we don't have. You gotta start getting focused on what the opportunities here are, and this sector really offers it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have had a rare opportunity to talk to 3 incredibly important leaders in the 3-state region. I hope you'll join me in thanking Senate President Cole, Lieutenant Governor Taylor, and Speaker Turzai for, I hope, an informative morning look at the future of this industry from the government end of the equation. So let's all thank our panelists. You did a great job. Governor, you did a terrific job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Speaker, awesome.
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you very much.
not a tap dancer, and I'm not your presidential candidate. But I would share with you, Mr. Trump has about a 5-minute interview he's doing, and he'll be with us in just a few moments. So be patient. Please don't leave the hall. And I just want to remind folks at the end of the Trump speech, we do have a closing remarks and do have a luncheon served in the back. So be patient. We should be with you in about 5 minutes. Thanks, everyone.
over off stage. Go ahead, guys. Let's off stage. Introduce.
Please welcome to the stage Christine J. Toretti, former Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, S.W. Jack Drilling Company.
The opportunity and honor of introducing our speaker brought to mind what I think is a central element of the presidential election. Do we want to make a wish, or do we want to make a choice? On one hand, we can wish we'll have a secure nation with no borders, but we know you need borders to be a nation in the first place. We can wish our economy will grow more than 2% when Washington politicians and regulators are beating down capitalism and making decisions that the market should make. But we've seen that doesn't work. We can wish that healthcare costs will be controlled when the federal government runs it. But again, we've seen that doesn't work. Do you still have the physician or the insurance plan you liked and were promised that you could keep? We can wish that America continue to be the greatest nation on earth, even if our leaders are dividing us by income, by race, by gender. And if you ask me, a divided America is something none of us ever asked for. We can wish that more than 2/3 of Americans polled didn't say our nation was on the wrong track, but we all know deep down that we need to get back on a better track, the right track. How about wishes and choices in energy? We can wish that the wind and sun immediately can be reliable sources of power generation. But ask someone who knows, and they'll tell you it's just that, a wish. We can wish that politicians and others can be so smart and informed that they can pick and choose our sources of energy and remove all environmental risk from energy development and delivery. Now that's a wish for those who grasp of practical reality, and it doesn't exist. We can wish for an economic and geopolitical opportunity that can replace domestic oil and gas production, consumption, and exports, but it's hard to imagine what in the world that might be. I think in our heart of hearts, Americans are choice makers. We want to assert ourselves and use the best information, coupled with common sense, to make decisions that we believe will make things better. Let's talk about choices in energy. It's a choice to look at a nation with millions of miles of underground pipelines of all kinds that for decades have served our energy needs, our communities and businesses and families, and see a president and government shut down a $4.5 billion project in North Dakota, and Keystone before that. Now that's when we say to ourselves, there's got to be a better way. It's a choice to look favorably at epic oil and natural gas technology and innovation with the potential to dramatically change our economy, to create millions of opportunities for people to go to work, to take care of their families, and to prosper. That's a choice we can all get behind if we have a leader who will lead on it. It's a choice to question people who blindly fight against clean-burning natural gas when it is delivering so many environmental and economic benefits to so many people, especially low-income households. It's a choice to be the nation's leader and say, from now on, we will all work together to have a sustainable energy system that's as environmentally friendly as possible, but we're going to invest in innovation that makes all energy as efficient, affordable, and accessible as it can be for everyone. A leader who would respond to leave it in the ground by saying, leave your ideology at the door and let's look to science and to engineering, address the issues. We all have a choice to make in November. I think I've just begun to make it clear here today, as he will, why Donald Trump won't be wishing for a new direction for America. He'll be making choices that can make America great again. Ladies and gentlemen, the next President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. That was such a nice introduction by a very respected woman, I have to say. It's great to be with so many of my friends. Oh, you will like me so much. You will get that business. You know, all my life, that business has never had problems, but in the last 7 or 8 years, it's been tough. With the EPA, with all of the different difficulties you're going through, you are going to like Donald Trump, and all of the workers that get put to work, they're going to love Donald Trump, so that's good. And I just heard from Rocky Blyer. He endorsed me. I said, can I say that? I said, yeah, I love tough people. And he's a tough cookie, and he just endorsed us. We have great relationships, and you know, it's really been something. We've had some great poll numbers come out just today. Rasmussen is 5 up nationwide, and I guess you probably saw Ohio is doing great. We're 4 or 5 up. The Fox poll came out last night, and doing great. Pretty much we're doing great where we have to do great. Florida's been terrific, and I think we're going to have a big, big victory right here in the state of Pennsylvania, and I think it's going to be a big victory. I went to school here. My children went to school here, so it's a very, very special place to me. I also want to thank the Marcellus Shale Coalition and Ohio Oil and Gas Association and the West Virginia. Oh, that West Virginia! What a victory I had there. It was almost like running on a post. All of the folks in West Virginia, they have been so great. They have been great, right from day one. And now it helped when Hillary made the statement, I'm going to put all those mines and miners out of business. That was not a good statement to make. I don't know. Maybe she knows something I don't know. But your organizations represent tens of thousands of jobs for hardworking Americans. Let me also recognize a really good friend of mine, an amazing guy, Harold Hamm. Where's Harold? He's here someplace. There he is. What a great guy. I spent a half an hour with Harold and dozens of hours. I mean, I spent so much time with all of these different folks, but I learned more in a half an hour with Harold Hamm than I made with all of the consultants put together, that I can tell you. But they tell me that a Republican can't carry the state of Pennsylvania. Wait till you see what happens here. Wait till you see. And I don't believe it, and you don't believe it, and I think you're going to have yourself not only a victory, but a really big one. That's going to go a long way to tell you what a wonderful industry you're in. And I have to say, do whatever you can to get out the vote November 8th. Do whatever you can, because a lot of things are happening, a lot of forces are happening, whatever you can. So it's great to be in Pittsburgh, the Steel City. I have a lot of friends here. Under a Trump administration, we're going to bring back our steel jobs, and we're going to rebuild this nation, so importantly. Before going any further today, I want to address the turmoil unfolding right now in our country. And it seems to be a never-ending problem. America desperately needs unity, and it needs the spirit of togetherness that has not really only got us through our toughest times, and we've had some tough times, but which has lifted us up in the past to our greatest achievements as a nation. Every day I see people of different backgrounds working together for a common good, and we need to bring that spirit to every part of our country and become one American nation, united by shared values and principles as American citizens. We have to do it. And we have to respect our flag. We have to respect our flag. We all have to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, see things through their eyes, and then get to work fixing our very wounded country. I mean, we have some real problems, and we do have a wounded country. Many Americans are watching the unrest in Charlotte unfolding right before their eyes on the TV screens. Others are witnessing the chaos and the violence firsthand. Our country looks bad to the world, especially when we are supposed to be the world's leader. How can we lead when we can't even control our own cities? We honor and recognize the right of all Americans to peacefully assemble, protest, and demonstrate. But there is no right to engage in violent disruption or to threaten the public safety and peace of others. Every single American in our country is entitled to live in a safe community. The violence against our citizens and our law enforcement must be brought to a very rapid end. The people who will suffer the most as a result of these riots are law-abiding African American residents who live in these communities where the crime is so rampant. It's their jobs, housing markets, schools, economic conditions that will suffer. And the first duty of government is to protect their well-being and safety. We have to do that. There is no compassion in tolerating lawless conduct. Crime and violence is an attack on the poor and will never be accepted in a Trump administration. Never, ever. Our job, thank you. Our job is not to make life more comfortable for the violent disruptor, but to make life more comfortable for the African American parent trying to raise their kids in peace, to walk their children to school, and to get their children great educations. We have to cherish and protect those people. For every one violent protester, there are thousands of moms and dads and kids in that same community who just want to be able to really to sleep safely at night, to be able to walk on the streets, to be able to go to the grocery store. More law enforcement, more community engagement, more effective policing is what our country needs, and we need it quickly. Last year, we saw a 17% rise in violent crime in our 50 largest cities. Homicides are up nearly 50% in Washington, D.C., and more than 60% in Baltimore. More than 3,000 people have been shot in Chicago so far this year from January 1st. Can you believe that? Nationwide, approximately 60% of murder victims under the age of 22 are African American. This is a national crisis, and it's the job of the next president of the United States to work with our governors and mayors to address this crisis and save African American lives. Look at the example that we had in New York of Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who's been a tremendous person for me, a friend of mine for a long time, and a big endorser, big endorser. The policies he put into place ultimately brought down crime by 76% and murder in New York by 84%. Think of how many families these policies saved from the worst heartache imaginable. We need a national anti-crime agenda to make our cities safe again. We have to make our cities safe again. We will appoint the best prosecutors, investigators, and federal law enforcement officers in the country to dismantle the international cartels, gangs, and criminal syndicates. And I will stop the drugs from flowing into our country and poisoning our youth and many other people. And if you're not aware, drugs are a very, very big factor in what you're watching on television at night. My administration will work with local communities and local officials to make the reduction of crime a top priority. Safety is the foundation of the ladder to American success. A great education and a really good paying job. We've lost so many of our good jobs to other countries. We're going to be bringing them back right here to Pittsburgh, to Pennsylvania. We're going to be bringing them back to Ohio. We're going to be bringing them back all over the country. They're coming back. They're coming back. These trade deals and the people, I think we'll have to have Harold Hamm negotiate a couple of trade deals for us, folks. To have the best schools and the best jobs, you must have safe communities. That means we must recognize the contributions of our police, who come from all backgrounds and all walks of life, and who often thanklessly risk their own lives to protect innocent people, many of whom they've never met. We all remember earlier this year when officers in Dallas, hunted down for execution, continued protecting the public until their last moments on earth. They were killed. Every day, police officers risk their lives for really complete strangers, and in every year, many of them will go out on calls and never return. It's tough being a police officer, and it's hard now even recruiting police officers. It's a tremendous problem. Police are entrusted with immense responsibility, and we must do everything we can to ensure that they are properly trained, that they respect all members of the public, and that any wrongdoing is always, and it will be by them, vigorously addressed. Has to be. But our men and women in blue, and you know this, the men and women in blue need your support. They need your thanks, and they need your gratitude. They are the line separating civilians and civilization from total chaos. They are also the front lines of defense in the war on terror, as we saw recently with their quick action following the terrorist attacks in New Jersey and New York, and the off-duty police officers. I mean, you saw the heroics of the off-duty police officers in Minnesota. An amazing job they did, catching this horrible person so quickly. With, how do you do that? They figured it out. And within a short period of time, they were able to capture him. I mean, who could do that? That's tougher than finding oil, I will tell you, right? In addition to providing safety, we must provide economic opportunity, and that begins with school choice and leads to a secure job with a rising income. This brings us to the subject of energy. Producing more American energy is a central part of my plan to making America wealthy again, especially for the poorest Americans. I knew I'd have to make that statement in order to get you guys a little bit enlivened. Well, you'll like the rest of what I'm going to say even more. America is sitting on a treasure trove of untapped energy. Some $50 trillion in shale energy, oil reserves, and natural gas on federal lands, in addition to hundreds of years of coal energy reserves. It's all upside for this country. More jobs, more revenues, more wealth, higher wages, and lower energy prices. I'm going to lift the restrictions on American energy and allow this wealth to pour into our communities, including right here in the state of Pennsylvania that we love. According to the Institute for Energy Research, lifting the restrictions on American energy, including shale production, will accomplish the following. Increase GDP by more than $100 billion each year. That's good music. Add over 500,000 new jobs annually. Increase annual wages by more than $30 billion over the next 7 years. Increase federal, state, and local tax revenues by almost $6 trillion over 4 decades. Increase total economic activity by more than $20 trillion over the next 40 years. In addition, we will streamline the permitting process, which probably makes you happier even than when I'm going to say we're lowering taxes. The permitting process in your industry is a disaster. It's a disaster. Every friend I have in your industry, they tell me it has become horrible with the EPA. So we're going to take care of that. And all energy infrastructure projects, including the billions of dollars in projects held up by President Obama, billions and billions held up, creating countless more jobs for our country in the process. Overall, my entire economic plan, tax reform, regulatory reform, energy reform, and trade reform will create at least 25 million new jobs over the next 10 years, assuming an average growth rate of 3.5%. And I believe we can reach beyond actually 4% growth. Why not? And just so you know, when China does 7% or even 8%, it's a major panic in the country. They then start devaluing, of course, and they get their numbers up, much to our chagrin. My tax plan includes a 15% business rate. Think of that. So that we're reducing taxes from 35% all the way down for business to 15%, turning America into a jobs magnet. Hillary Clinton would raise taxes on some small businesses as high as 45% and probably even higher than that. And as far as regulations are concerned, it will be beyond anything you're experiencing right now. So you better get everybody out to vote, folks, so you can sort of forget it. And all these jobs that we're talking about will go in the opposite direction. Income taxes will be simplified from 7 brackets to 3, and middle-class Americans will get a major tax cut, including child care deductions and tax-free child care savings accounts. My plan includes the elimination of all unnecessary regulations and a temporary moratorium on new regulations not compelled by Congress or public safety. Overregulation is costing our economy $2 trillion a year. And I think probably no other business has been more affected than your business by overregulation. And one of the things I've seen, despite this massive tax cut, the biggest since Ronald Reagan and maybe beyond that, from 35 to 15, people are more excited when I talk about the fact that we're going to be cutting massively regulations. We need regulations for safety and environment, but regulations are becoming a major industry right now, and we're going to make it a much smaller industry, maybe a minor industry. Your regulations are going to be cut back to a point that you'll be able to have your businesses, grow your businesses, and start new businesses. And you'll never be able to do that with what has taken place over the last 8 years. And I just think it's a very important thing. And what has really impressed me is people in business have actually felt more strongly about that even than the tax cut itself. So I understand that very well. On energy, my economic plan unlocks our shale oil and gas and the energy technologies of both today and tomorrow. Finally, my plan includes a renegotiation of America's trade deals and an enforcement of trade rules to increase jobs and wealth inside the United States. We have people right in this room that could do so well for us. We have negotiators of our trade deals who are political hacks, who are people that don't know the first thing about negotiation. Of course, you could just look at the Iran deal and you understand that. The deal that was made recently with Iran, what a deal that is. I mean, we have half of this room could have negotiated a deal 10 times better, and a lot of the people in the room just wouldn't have made the deal, and that would have been a lot better. But they did something that you folks, even Harold Hamm, never saw before. We thought it was $400 million in cash. Cash, not like a check. $400 million in cash. It was $1.7 billion in cash. And even you've never seen 1.7 in cash, right? We're talking about cash, Harold. Man, One point, they had to take airplane, like this airplane. I don't even see how an airplane, even a big one, is big enough for that. I would like to see that someday, 1.7 billion in cash, but it had nothing to do with the hostages, right? Strong border controls will also protect our workers and save our budget trillions in the long term. It is perhaps the most pro-growth economic plan anywhere in American history. I think it is. Compare that to my opponent. She plans a $1.3 trillion tax hike, massive new regulations, and some of your industries sitting right in this room are out of business, the offshoring of American jobs, and the aggressive restriction of American energy production. Her plan will help only her wealthy donors and global special interests who benefit from the rigged system. And we are in a rigged system. Hillary Clinton wants to put the coal miners out of work, ban hydraulic fracking in almost all places, and extensively restrict and ban energy production on public lands and in most offshore areas. That's what she said. Remember, she said, we're going to put the miners out of work? This will produce devastation for states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, and so many others, where shale oil and shale energy and coal production are critical parts of the economy. And I go to the coal areas, and it's like devastation. And these are amazing people, unbelievable people. Her plan hurts states like Colorado, Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, and anywhere with access to either onshore or offshore energy resources. She also supports blocking the energy infrastructure that's needed to move our energy resources to the marketplace. According to the Wall Street Journal, overall, more than a dozen fossil fuel projects worth about $33 billion have been either rejected by regulators or withdrawn by developers since 2012 only, with billions more tied up in projects still in regulatory limbo. They won't happen either. Now, if I'm president, they'll happen quickly. I can tell you that. Happen very quickly. You'd be amazed how quickly they'll happen. Examples of energy transportation projects blocked or abandoned include an $850 million coal export facility in Washington, a $3 billion natural gas pipeline in the Northeast, and a $6.8 billion liquid natural gas export facility, among others, many others. Billions of dollars in private infrastructure investment have been lost to the Obama-Clinton restriction agenda, and many, many billions more to follow. The platform produced by Hillary Clinton's party this year also calls for a price on carbon. That's just political speak for a massive new tax on coal and shale production, a tax on American consumers. And it's very unfair to our country, and it makes it very unfair and very uncompetitive to do business with other countries. Very. It makes it so tough to compete with other countries. And remember, every energy dollar that isn't harvested here in America is harvested instead in a foreign country. Often foreign countries not very friendly to us. That not only means, so true, that not only means that we're sending our jobs to those countries, but it means that energy is being produced in foreign countries that lack our high environmental and conservation standards, which we want to keep. That is just one more reason why we should pursue the safe and responsible production of America's vast energy resources and reserves. We need an American first energy plan. It's going to be, from now on, America first. This means opening federal lands for oil and gas production, opening offshore areas, and revoking policies that are imposing unnecessary restrictions on innovative new exploration technologies. The development of the Marcellus and Utica shale, and I know so well, I'm up in New York State. What a shame, what a shame. We'll fund it, what, you understand, there's probably one guy from New York over there, he's been trying to get at that stuff for about 20 years, and now his clap, he's barely making. Who's the poor guy that just clapped? Could you stand up? Come on, give him a hand. Give him a hand. He's exhausted, but he's still there, right? Will fundamentally change the economic landscape of this region and our country, bringing extraordinary new prosperity to millions, more jobs, higher wages, a larger tax base, and dollars flowing into our country for a change instead of out of our country, which is typical. Hillary Clinton's war on energy will cost our economy $5 trillion at least. She's not only declared war on the miners, but on all oil and natural gas production. It's war, which supports 10 million jobs in the United States. And you people know it's war. It's going to be worse under her than it's been under President Obama. Access to low-cost liquid natural gas also supports the American chemical industry, which supports 40,000 jobs in the state of Pennsylvania. We have just begun as a nation to recognize our economic advantage that is made possible by shale energy. The shale energy revolution will unleash massive wealth for American workers and their families. At the same time, this energy revolution will produce new demand for American steel. And that means the steel workers will benefit. And the steel workers today are having a very, very hard time. That business is going down on a yearly basis. We are going to benefit the steel workers and the steel business. But federal restrictions remain a major impediment to both shale production specifically and energy production in general. Currently, less than 10% of the federally managed surface and mineral estates are leased for oil and gas development. Almost 90% of our nation's offshore acreage is off limits to energy production. In many cases, there's absolutely no reason for that. Our energy policy will make full use of our domestic energy sources, including traditional and renewable energy sources. We want everything. That means we will end the war on coal and the war on our miners. I will rescind the coal mining lease moratorium, which is a horrible moratorium and so unfair, the excessive Interior Department stream rule, and conduct a top-down review of all anti-coal regulations issued by the Obama administration. We will eliminate the highly invasive Waters of the U.S. rule and scrap the $5 trillion Obama-Clinton Climate Action Plan and the Clean Power Plan. These unilateral plans will increase monthly electric bills by double digits without any measurable improvement in climate whatsoever. Very unfair to our people and our workers. I will refocus the EPA on its core mission of ensuring clean air and clean, safe drinking water for all Americans. That's what we want. I believe firmly in conserving our wonderful natural resources and beautiful natural habitats. My environmental agenda will be guided by true specialists in conservation, not those with radical political agendas that are putting our country behind the 8 ball. It will be a future of conservation, of prosperity, and of great success for the people in this room and for all of those people that you employ, the tens of thousands of great people that you employ. It will be a future of new technology, new innovation, and new solutions. It will be a future we can achieve together, beginning with a victory on November 8th. Get out and vote. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.